You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the BQN Hive Mind panel on Section 31. I am your host and moderator for today, Davey. I'm joined by Jim. Hey, Jim.
Hello, everybody.
And Sam. How are you, Sam?
I'm good.
Excellent. So for the uninitiated out there, the BQN Hive Mind is an exclusive program for our BQN network patrons to join in and talk about what's been going on lately in Trek, which is run semi-regularly, usually when there's something big in Trek happening to talk about. And yeah, we've got two of our network patrons with us. If you'd like to be a part of a future Hive Mind podcast episode, you can sign up to be a patron over at patreon.com/BQN. It costs as little as $1 US or as little as $2 Australian. I don't know how much it costs in Great British pounds or any other currency like euros, but hey, it's still a good deal. It's still a good deal, as these two gentlemen will attest to. We've got something that we just need to. There's an elephant in the room that we need to address today. Now, we've waited a while before doing this one, and it's Section 31.
We were letting it sink in.
We were letting it sink in. And as the BQN host who tends to schedule these events in, I also took, God, I don't know, Sam, how long did it take me to actually watch Section 31?
I think 2 weeks.
2 weeks? I felt like it was longer than that.
It was either 2 or 3.
You know, the day it came out, I came home and I'd been out for like beers with my coworkers. So I came home a little jolly, and then I put it on and I was just like, oh, this is bringing my mood down. So I turned it off. But I have watched it actually twice since then. Jim,
You're a brave man, Davey. You're a brave man.
I was going to be one of my first questions. Jim, have you just done a single watch and that's it? You're done with it. You're never watching it again.
Oh, I'm not saying I'll never watch it again, but it'll be a while.
It'll be a while. And Sam, what about you?
I've also only watched it once, but I was going to watch it again, but I just never had the energy.
That's probably why I haven't watched it again since, and why it'll be a while. You need a lot of energy you need a lot of stored energy to watch it again.
It's such an interesting thing, and you wouldn't even say it's polarizing because it seems to be quite universally disliked. I've not seen a lot in defense of it. Jim, when watching, Star Trek's first attempt at a made-for-TV movie, let's call it, what were you feeling in that moment? And what made you dislike it so much during that watch?
Well, I'll start off by saying I didn't absolutely hate it like a lot of fans have.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is always worse Star Trek out there. Yes, I'm looking at you, Code of Honor.
Ouch.
Yeah, I will always say that is the worst Star Trek ever.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few episodes that are up for contention there, so maybe towards the end of the show we'll try and do a little bit of a game.
I was just trying to make a joke here, so I'll move on.
No, I was just wondering. I reckon later on we should try and see if we can rank where Section 31 sits in terms of bad Star Trek. But anyway, keep going, Jim.
Yeah, no, but anyways, like I look at it, it's not the worst Star Trek ever, but it's not the best Star Trek ever. Like, it's never, if I'm watching something, like if I'm looking for on a random day, like I did this morning, like I'm looking for just a random Star Trek to watch. it's not ever gonna be in my top choices. Like this morning, I watched DS9's the 2-hour season 4 premiere, Way of the Warrior. Fantastic to watch, but never would I watch the Section 31 movie on like a random Saturday.
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't know if it'll fall into the category of like Star Trek comfort food. Like I know yesterday afternoon, I was just feeling. I'm like on the introverted side of extroversion, if that sounds possible. But like, so whereas I'm incredibly social and out there, but I also burn out. And so I was in a bit of burnout yesterday, and so like I whacked on something like Dark Frontier on Voyager because we talked about it on Trexperts last week. Good Star Trek comfort food. I also think Star Trek's great for hangovers, FYI, but I don't think this falls into that category because, like I said, I came home a little tipsy when I watched it the first time and felt like it was ruining my buzz, and so decided to can it. Sam, I'll go to you now. So, what was the reaction like for you when you watched it?
I didn't hate it. I didn't love it, but it had kind of like the perfect mix of sci-fi that I like, but for some reason the secret flavor of Star Trek added in just ruined it for me.
And that's the thing, isn't it? That's what everyone's saying. Like generic action film, but it's not Star Trek. So Sam, why isn't it Star Trek?
I wouldn't even say it isn't Star Trek. I would say that there are much worse. I mean, if you dig deep enough in Voyager, Deep Space Nine, TNG, Enterprise, what's that episode where Trip ends up on the planet with the really pretty lady, and then it's like a whole thing.
All of them?
I know the one you're talking about. I can't remember the name of it. I just know the lady was whoever the host for Top Chef was for so many
Yes.
years.
So like it wasn't the worst Star Trek, but I think it was like they had. I think I said this in the BQ and Discord. It's like they had a pilot and like 8 scripts for like 8 different episodes. And instead of doing that season, they just took all of the important story beats and shoved it into one. But if you had the levels, you would have had a perfect Star Trek movie, TV show, spy drama.
Yeah, interesting. So Jim, for you, what makes it not Star Trek? I'm very curious because I have a particular thought on this, but I want to get your thoughts first.
Ooh. Well, I think they focused way too much on the dystopian aspect. Like what was the scene where it was like they're all walking out of the cave in the ready to go action, and you see fire just coming up out of like 8 or 10 like vent holes from the ground, and it's like the perfect image of like the perfect image you're seeing from a dystopian movie, but it's not what you would expect from a Star Trek movie or even TV series necessarily.
But can you, given the subject matter though, we're talking about the tyrannical genocidal leader of the Terran Empire, who is out on the fringes working for an organization that lives outside the rules of the Federation and Starfleet. Does that kind of fit that vibe though?
Yeah, I'm not 100% certain on that, especially considering this is supposed to be set in the Prime main universe, not necessarily the Terran universe.
Mm. I'm wondering if people are just not feeling the Star Trek vibes because there's no actual Starfleet in it. We don't see any cool starships. I think, we're in that Rachel Garrett era, which has never really kind of been on TV before. I think maybe people were kind of hoping to get a bit of a, ambassador
We can
class
cover Rachel
Enterprise.
Garrett later in the discussion.
We'll talk about characters. Absolutely. But I had a slightly different view on it, especially because I watched it fresh this morning before coming on to do the show. And I actually think when you dig under the surface a little bit, there are parts of it that does work as an isolated story set in the universe of the Star Trek that we know, but you've kind of almost got to take yourself out of those. We're used to seeing stories from the Federation, Starfleet perspective, a crew on board a ship or a station, or something along those lines. And this is outside of Federation space. This is, we've got Philippa Georgiou, who's been trying to lay low, and then they send the secret organization, clandestine organization, after her. And it's all seedy underbelly stuff. The stuff that I think it's the stuff that we don't like to almost admit exists in our Star Trek universe, because it's all like sex and violence, and she takes drugs in the beginning and all kinds of stuff like that. So I wonder if we're rejecting it because it doesn't conform to the ideals of the utopian future that we're used to in Star Trek.
Oh, I have no problem with there being an anti-utopian or anti-utopian aspects in Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I think, the combination that they use in this movie.
Yeah. And I guess I'm trying to sort of unpick what kind of like works and what didn't work. All right, so we've got, this is the promised Section 31 spin-off. It was meant to be a show. We were meant to get a series. Michelle Yeoh became incredibly popular in Hollywood, and so we got a TV movie instead, which is, it's got some of the heavyweights from New Trek behind it. Like, I can't necessarily pronounce his name, but Olatunde Osusanami. I probably butchered that.
Olatunde Osusanami.
Yeah, who directed heaps of Discovery. In fact, some of the best parts: Discovery, Picard, Strange New Worlds. But it kind of, I don't know. Watching it again this morning, I'm like, okay, it kind of feels like they took scripts and story ideas for a Section 31 pilot and then kind of had to turn it into a self-contained movie, but still kind of give it a little bit of a like, oh, there could be more adventures to tell in this if fans react well. I don't know, Sam, what's your take on that?
I would completely agree. I think another thing is Section 31 has become such an overused plot device.
Mm-hmm.
Because when it first appeared in Deep Space Nine, it was, are we ever going to get an episode about this again? And then we got 2 more, I think. And then I think the next time we saw them was the Kelvin movies in Into Darkness. And then Discovery ran wild with them, and now this. But it just feels like they had Michelle Yeoh. She was up for doing like one more big Star Trek-y thing.
Yeah.
And then she was like, "Aw, maybe not a TV show." So she did a movie.
Yeah.
And like, even like, I don't want to spoil anything, but the cameo at the end, that it felt not like a reference to anything in Star Trek, but a reference to the real world.
Oh yeah, and look, spoiler alerts are fine. A month has passed, right? So I'll drop the spoiler that Sam was just alluding to. So quickly pause if you don't want to hear a spoiler. But Jamie Lee Curtis appears at the end, and it's her voice, I think, at the beginning too.
It is her voice at
mission
the
briefing.
beginning.
Yeah.
And I heard the only reason she did that was because Michelle Yeoh, one of her best friends, called her up and said, "Hey, can you do this cameo for me?"
Yeah, I didn't realize they were such good friends. I know they were in Everything Everywhere All Together All at Once, which is such a good movie. Oh my God, I love that movie so much. And I think that's the movie that really kind of took Michelle Yeoh into like super Hollywood star. I mean, she's always been like a super Hollywood star, but like she said herself once she got, I think it was she got a Golden Globe for that, or an Oscar, or both. And she said herself, suddenly I'm first on the call list. So now we've seen her in Wicked. She's had her multiple shows on Netflix and all that kind of stuff, right? So she would have had to have carved out quite a very specific bit of timing for this, right? And of course she wouldn't want to do a whole series because she's getting big Hollywood roles. I mean, Wicked has been is one of the biggest films of last year, and the sequel will probably be one of the biggest films of this year. Did they waste the character? Did they waste the character? Did they waste the talent, Jim?
Depends on the character. I think they would
I'm talking about
For Michelle
Giorgio, like
Yeoh,
Giorgio and Michelle Yeoh. Yeah.
yeah, for Michelle Yeoh, I think mostly they did, like, some of those fight sequences, like, were some of the most poorly designed fight sequences I've ever seen for her, and I've seen a bunch of stuff she's been in.
Yeah, with some cool ideas behind them that weren't done that well. Like I quite liked the fight scene where they're out of phase towards the beginning. I thought that was pretty cool, but it was lots of confusing quick camera movements and all that kind of stuff. Not really kind of showing off the stunning martial artist that she actually is too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it looked like some of the it looked like some of those fight sequences, it wasn't even her. Like, at least I thought so. And like it's like you said, she's a trained martial artist. She could, who is still in great shape, who could do most of her own, who could do most of her own stunts, and who I think who prefers to do most of her own stunts if she can.
Yeah, 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 definitely, definitely. I think there's an element too, right, that Giorgio was a very popular character in Discovery, which is why she just kept coming back and back and back, and why they were going to give her a spin-off. And it's been, what, like 3, 4 or more years since she left Disco? So like
At least.
season 3 of Disco, which I'm pretty sure came out like 2020 or 2020, like late 2020, early 2021. And so
It
it's
was
been,
towards the end of the pandemic.
yeah, because I remember season 3 took a while to come out because they'd done most of the filming, but they couldn't get like say like all of the musicians into the same room to do the musical score and all that kind of stuff for all the post production. But anyway, my point being is that she left us quite some time ago, and we've all been waiting for years to see where did she go? Where did she go? And she took over a casino on the fringes of Federation space and took on a French alias is where she went. And I don't know, maybe that's just not enough for some fans. I don't know, Sam, what do you think? We're talking about the payoff, right? This is really what this was. This was what as closure for what happened to quite a popular character with quite a popular actor. Is that also playing into maybe some people's distaste of this film?
I don't think so, because a lot of my non-super Trekkie friends, shout out to Evan if you're watching, have been super excited about this movie only because Georgia was in it. And I think that was a huge boon, but I think there was one easy way to fix this movie, and it hit me during this conversation. Set it in the Kelvin timeline.
Haha. Interesting. Okay. Let's expand on that. How would that have worked?
Well, I mean, the design aesthetic of the space station at the beginning lines up with Kelvin era space design, especially with Yorktown Station.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see any Starfleet. We don't see any Starfleet uniforms, so they can kind of skip that part of the wardrobe budget.
Mm-hmm.
We don't go anywhere near Federation space, so you don't. Well, you even have if I'm not mistaken, the singer in the club is an alien who first appeared in Beyond. So you've already got these links, and then like I'm not gonna remember the name, but they're the zebra species, kind of like my shirt.
I don't think that species ever got a name.
I think in the very, very original TOS episode they're from, they do, but
Yeah, they do
not
have a name. We had a question about it on Trexperts a few weeks ago, but it's escaping me.
But the fact that that one is not one of the 2 who survived on the Enterprise could lead to maybe that was the Kelvin universe outcome, and so they're all over the galaxy now.
Yeah,
And then you like, all the inconsistencies they say, "Oh, that's just how it is in the Kelvin universe," just like they did back in 2009.
Yeah. I'm now trying to look up the name of that species. So that comes from the episode Let That Be Your Last Battlefield. One of the characters' name is Loci. It was the planet Arianus. God, memory alpha. Sometimes it just needs to be quicker to find information on this. But yeah, actually, does it mention Arianus bacterial infection? Blah 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 blah. I don't know. Anyway, they had a name, but yes, it was. I think it was the first time they'd been seen on screen since that original appearance. So anyway, yeah. Look, I know some people, MC, who probably and Amy, who would have been very very happy if we had a Kelvin timeline. And hey, maybe that's the missed opportunity here for a Star Trek made for like a self-contained Star Trek made for TV movie, is that something in the Kelvin timeline. Maybe we could be ready for that again. I don't know, Jim. What do you think?
I'm through with the Kelvin
Oh!
timeline at this.
MC's head just exploded somewhere.
Sorry, MC. Sorry, I love you, but sorry.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Let's talk story and characters. So, at the end of the day, we have a story which ties back to Giorgio's origins in the Terran Empire. We have someone who essentially took part in the Hunger Games with her, who was thought to be dead, who has found their way into our universe with a bomb that she created to basically wipe out all resistance. You know, it's a bit of a MacGuffin, right? It's this like no explanation as to how it worked. It would just
Yeah, it
wipe
was a
out.
bit of a stretch.
Yeah. It's just this quadrant wide nuclear doomsday machine. Like it's a bit. I mean, it kind of took me out of the story a little bit, because in terms of stakes, it was, even for a sci-fi show like Star Trek, which is good at explaining itself when it throws these kind of big sci-fi concepts at us, this didn't really get explained. It's like, yeah, it's just this thing that's just going to go from planet to planet, destroy everyone. So anyway, she's trying to stop it. She finds out it's there. So there's a nebula where people are crossing over, and her childhood friend who she thought she was dead, has come back, and he's
Oh,
trying.
just even how he was still alive was something of a stretch too.
Yeah. So Jim, like, plot-wise, it tried to do a lot. Like, there was a lot of ideas happening throughout, but what parts of it do you think were done well versus what didn't work?
No, I definitely think they could have expanded on the whole, as you put it, the Hunger Games thing at the beginning of the movie when she killed her
Yeah.
family. Like, I actually had a couple of friends who I actually have a couple of friends who one of them knows the writer of one of the writers of the movie, and they got to be on set during the filming of those sequences, and they told me like that what they filmed of that sequence was a lot longer and a lot more than what we actually saw in the movie, and
Oh,
and it made it seem, and they thought it was going to be a bigger thing in the film than what we actually got.
interesting. I mean, I found it kind of one of the more interesting components of the story in general. I mean, I thought you were about to just say, then I have a friend who murdered their family to become the tyrannical ruler of a evil
No.
empire, but like, didn't realize you were going to say you knew someone who was actually there for the filming. But that'd be interesting to see if that comes out in the deleted scenes, because I mean, there'll no doubt be some kind of steelbook Blu-ray release.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure even though the movie is hated, it'll still be a popular Blu-ray DVD.
Yeah. Sam, did you like that part of it?
No.
No. Okay. Cool. Fair enough.
I had to think for a minute, because I do like the Terran Empire. I feel like every Terran episode is a good episode.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the stakes felt too high. The characters felt like they had to have like crowbarred reasons of why they were back in the plot after being removed from the plot. And then like you could tell they were setting up that someone on this team was, you know, the bad guy or one of the
Yeah.
bad guys.
Very cliche. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I feel like the characters, like Giorgio is always likable. I feel like she's allowed to be sadistic and evil and prance about the scene, but like I really hate. I don't remember even what his name was. The Irish parasite alien
Oh god.
Fuzz? Was that his name?
was.
Yeah, Fuzz. Yeah. Yes. Anyway, that's a whole nother topic of conversation. But
Yeah, that was
uh,
one of the worst things I hated about this movie. Don't even get me started on that.
Jim, what was a part of the story or the plot narrative, whatever you want to call it, that you liked? Was there what was some of the things that you thought? I mean, you mentioned that you liked the bit at the beginning, and you wish you'd seen more of that. Was there anything else that you thought had similar potential, or you were like, no, I like this part of the story?
Well, just briefly before I answer your question to expand on that, like I do think like missed opportunity with that thing at the beginning. Like they should have had Linda Park in that, like to explain how they went from Empress Sato to Empress Georgiou. Like
Mm,
that would have been a fantastic opportunity. But to get to answer your question, like plot points that I did like in the movie, the biggest one, like Rachel Garrett, Rachel Garrett and that whole plot line. One of the only things about that movie I did like
okay.
that actress was phenomenal.
Yeah, I liked her too. I mean, it was hard to kind of tie her back to the Rachel Garrett that we've sort of seen before, but then you've kind of got to imagine, well, this is a much younger version of her.
Yeah, yeah, because
And
Trisha
yeah.
O'Neill or whatever her name was in her 40s, I think, when she played that role. This if you do the math, this is supposed to be a young Rachel Garrett at the start of her career.
Yes, and a young hero of the Federation too. This is you've always got to remember that these characters that we see, it's like seeing Spock in Strange New Worlds. He is a much younger,
Exactly.
inexperienced, and more immature version
It's
of the very
basically it's basically
refined
like Leonard
character we
Nimoy.
see later. Yeah.
It's basically like Leonard Nimoy when he screams, "The women!"
Wow, there are some things we just don't need to be reminded of, Jim. Sam, what about you? What are we've heard a lot about what you didn't like. What were some plot points that you really enjoyed?
The makeup was great. I have to say the set design, makeup, production design, directing, all spectacular. I'll be honest, I'm with Jim on this because especially like when they show the old Empress, that should have been Hoshi. Like I have a cat named after Hoshi. I love Hoshi. I want
Ah.
Hoshi back in Star Trek.
Yes, that would have been cool. That actually would have been pretty cool. Missed opportunity for sure. I wonder if they were going too hard on trying to make a self-contained movie that would get people to sign up to Paramount Plus whilst anchoring things in there that Star Trek fans would get as well.
Like
Because
they wouldn't get Empress Sato.
yeah, I mean, well, because maybe not, right? But there are things in there that tie it into canon. So Alok is from the eugenics wars. He's from the 20th century. Yeah, so
Yeah,
he
that was one of the things that was one of the plot points that was like a big stretch for me. Like it was like,
I actually like
okay,
that. Thank you for reminding me of that, Davey, because I like that because I believe he directly references that he's not from the eugenics wars. He was an embryo stored from the eugenics wars, which is like the best Enterprise. You got some Enterprise, a little bit Enterprise in there.
and look, and Star Trek has had this odd obsession with augments and all that kind of stuff, and tying back into the eugenics wars for the last sort of 5 years. But yeah, there was an interesting reference there to that. Although I, it does seem a little off because in Strange New Worlds, they've established that the timeline has shifted, and none of that starts until much later. But yeah, maybe I kind of missed something there.
yeah.
But
Strange New Worlds wasn't exactly clear on that either, though.
Yeah.
yeah, because there's sort of like, oh no, this was meant to happen in 1993. That's how long I've been here. So I think it is leaning into the fact that temporal cold wars and all the meddling in time that's happened meant that time's not necessarily a straight line, and we're probably seeing and living in all kinds of alternate timelines. Thank you, Wesley Crusher in Prodigy. Anywho, slightly off topic. So yeah, anyway, so he was tied into canon through that. I mean, obviously, we saw some other aliens at least that we're familiar with. We had a Delton. We haven't had a Delton for a while, although she was
Nice.
gone pretty quickly.
Yeah, I was pretty upset that they got rid of her so quickly.
Yeah.
Although I could also kind of predicted too that she was gonna go because remember the sequence where they introduced each character and then they introduced them again, like in both sequences, like they never really went into detail on the Delton character.
Yeah, exactly. They also had the Commeloid. Now, I didn't really like. I feel like distance ourselves from the fact that there was always another shape shifting species in canon because I feel like it takes away from the threat and the danger that was the founders. Because there was like everyone's like, so, oh my god, they could be anyone and could be anywhere, but like, hey, there was a whole nother shape shifting race of beings living in the Alpha Quadrant potentially the whole time. Plus, I didn't really like his shape-shifting effect where he turned into a bunch of worms.
Yeah, no, the one Iman did in the first one was a lot better.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, anyway. Whilst we're talking about characters, I guess, Zeph. I mean, blink and you'll miss him, I guess. But, I mean, even with all that, cyborgy mechanical stuff on.
When they said Zeph, I was really thinking he was going to be a clone of Zeph from Cochrane. That's why he's all cyborged out. He's a cyborg Zeph from Cochrane, back from the past to save the future leader of humanity,
That would have sent people into an absolute tailspin, Sam, if that had been the case. Oh my god. Oh my god.
I would have loved it.
Jim's got this look of just utter disgust on his face at even the mention of Zeph.
Oh, I had no problem with Zeph.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's just your face. Fair
No,
enough.
Fuzz was the one I had an issue with.
Fuzz. Do you want to talk about Fuzz? Let's talk about Fuzz. Come on, let's talk about Fuzz.
Yeah, no, those accents, like the southern one was bad. I'll fully admit that. But the one that was truly insulting for me, even though it was a different character than Fuzz, was that Irish accent at the end of the episode. Like as an Irish person, as a person with an Irish background, given my name, like that one was insulting.
Yeah, and he was. I just kind of found him an irritating character in general. I wasn't a fan of the. I mean, or more power to the actor Sven
Yeah,
Rygrok.
and I'm sure the actor did the best job he could under the circumstance, but it just wasn't great.
Yeah, yeah. They had there was this kind of forced familiarity between the Section 31 characters. Like there was all this banter that I think we were meant to find funny because they were meant to have been an established group who'd been working together for a while. But I think for me as the audience, whenever they would have their kind of banter with each other, I just kind of felt like, I was the only person not in the social group at a party who, was someone's plus one to a party and they're all telling these private jokes. And I'm like, you're not going to tell me the background of that one? Okay, that's fine. I'll just keep drinking.
Yeah, the whole "Did you say this or did you say that?" joke, like that was meant to be ha 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 ha, just did not come off as funny to me.
Yeah, yeah. But like they seem to, I mean, maybe because they're meant to be, a group of secret agents, but you would have thought there would have been at least some kind of tighter bond between them. Maybe. I don't know. Instead, they're all quite willing to kill each other and have them die and all that kind of stuff. And Sven's kind of, I didn't mind the concept of Sven's character as, these little microscopic life forms, but the execution of it, like it was just a little bit too slapstick with the little mini dude sitting in his little UFO spaceships.
How Fuzz was actually like a guy about this big.
Yes. I was like, I mean, it's quite Star Trek in the sense that is a very out there form of life, but also very hard to explain scientifically as well.
Yeah, I like the concept of that, but I like the concept of that in the initial scene where we see the character kind of freaked me out, but after that, it was just poor execution.
Yeah, I agree. And then we had a couple of other characters as well. We had Dada No, who was he was the initial guy that she has to fight with, who was from the Mirror Universe, and he'd brought the Godsend through.
And they didn't know he was from the Mirror Universe in
Yeah.
another twist.
She figured it out pretty quickly, though,
Yeah.
which was interesting. And then we just have, like, lots of, there's Giorgio's mother, young Giorgio. And obviously, then we have, of course, we have.
Oh, yeah, don't forget Virgil or whatever his name is, who is that, who is the black and white guy whose species name we couldn't come up with.
Yeah. What was his name?
You were right. I looked too. They're only listed as Charon native.
Yeah, Augusto Bitter as Virgil. I didn't mind Virgil. I liked.
Yeah, I didn't mind him either. I thought he was actually one of the better performances in the movie.
Yeah, just this, the kind of makes his skin crawl henchman is the whole bit like, ooh, right as they were reaching the climax. The gentleman would like to make an appointment. That kind of, like, I don't know. It was he had a handful of lines and he hammed them up and had a good time. So Augusto Bitter, my hat goes off to you. I enjoyed.
Plus, it was great seeing that species again too. Sorry for interrupting, Davey.
No. I agree. It was great to see them again. And then we have just the most unusual of protagonists who, which was James Lau as San. Like, I felt no menace from him. I didn't feel the connection and the chemistry back to the Giorgio character. It's so obvious that there's some link to him because he appears very randomly in a flashback, towards at the beginning, and then kind of 1/3 of the way through the film. I didn't feel like, where was the danger coming from? Was the danger from him or the Godsend or both? Because he just felt very flat as the protagonist for me. Or what do you reckon, Sam?
I would agree. To be honest, I didn't see it coming. It was a nice twist. I think that's something I actually liked, how it ended up being him. But then the questions like, how did he live? How did he get here? Start coming up. But you know what? While we've been talking, I've been thinking more and more. I think the one thing this movie did, character-wise, that I love is have Rachel Garrett be the threat. Because I know this is jumping back, and I apologize for that. But
that's okay.
I love the Enterprise C. I love the Lost Era. I'm sad I've never been able to track down the Lost Era books, which I hear are phenomenal.
If you ever do get them, read them. Some of them are really good.
I've heard they're amazing. I've read their limited memory beta articles, and I love the sound of it because it's the formative years of every single one of our heroes from the TNG era. And also, the twilight years of the people from TOS and the TOS movies. So you get this awesome picture of the Federation in an era of peace. I think that's the longest era of peace in Federation history.
Mm.
And the fact that Rachel Garrett, wasn't, she's the Boimler. She got mixed up in the wrong thing as a lower decker, and now she's part of Section 31.
Yeah. Look, I think there's a lot of conflicting emotions about Rachel Garrett. People were very excited when it was announced that she was in it, but I think some people enjoyed it, some people didn't, right? It's hard. It's like the whole film. It's got people, not, like I said, not so much divided. It's just most people hate it, with some people who were like, it's not that bad. Like me, I waited a few weeks to watch it, went into it with minimal expectations, and was like, I had fun. I'm actually just going to put it out there. When I watched it, I actually had a little bit of fun. It's not the Star Trek I'm used to seeing, but, it wasn't, like everyone keeps saying, it could have been better. It could have been better. And I think that's something that'd be interesting to kind of sort of to take us out on is what would have made this better? Sam's already mentioned, maybe setting it in the Kelvin timeline. Jim, you've already mentioned maybe doing more about her background in the Terran Empire. What would have made this a better film, Jim?
At this point, I'm not entirely sure. I think we've covered just about everything I would suggest.
Yeah. Yeah. Sam, what about you?
I don't think it would take much to fix this. And I think the secret lies in something Jim said.
Oh, yeah.
Because his friend who was on set, who said they shot more, I feel like if this movie had certain extensions on certain scenes, there are crucial plot details we're missing, crucial story beats that were kind of jumped over. You know what? I think Paramount should take every single scrap of bonus footage they have, every B-roll, every deleted scene, make an extended edition and turn this into a really cool Star Trek thrill ride that has the octane of the Kelvin universe with the lore and the respect that the Prime universe shows. Not that the Kelvin universe didn't do that either, because I can feel the MC heat-seeking missile just locking on. So
Yeah.
Yeah, because my friend, when he came back from filming in Toronto and he saw those scenes, he said the number it takes, the number it takes they did of the scene where it was like where she killed the family, and the young actress who filmed that scene, he said they were some of those scenes were like poignant and brilliant, and that the actress was phenomenal, and that and that we will be seeing more of her in the future. After this cut, I doubt we'll be seeing more. I doubt we'll be seeing more of her anytime soon, or if we
Mm.
will, it will be a while.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I think it's not it, Section 31 being portrayed as like this ragtag group of space ruffians didn't quite work for me. They have always actually been like Federation citizens who are working to protect the Federation, the Sloans and all that. Like, I wanted to see more of that kind of espionage. Like, you know what I mean? They gave the stylistic choice for me in how they portrayed Section 31 in this film just didn't quite land for me. I think if they could have done it, you know, more towards like what our our DS9 Section 31 was like, or even like what our Discovery Section 31 was like. But I guess they have gone slightly more underground by this point in time too. I think maybe Jonathan Frakes at the director's chair would have been good as well, because he always brings the Star Trek feels to it. Not that Olatunde is not experienced, and yeah, maybe we'll get to see the Snyder cut version of this.
4-hour Section 31.
One thing it's totally off topic, but one thing I want to mention that I noticed when I did a little rewatch this morning is, did anyone notice that the tricorders were just smartphones?
I did
Literally. See, I'm holding up my phone now with the light on. Go and watch it. They're literally just smartphones that they're holding up like that, and they've got the torch on, and they're scanning around, and they just put a big cover on it so you can't tell it's a phone.
That's better than Picard.
Well, Picard used like Samsung Galaxy flip phones with a cover on them, so at least they folded outwards. So go and watch. It is 100% just an everyday like Android phone that they've put some fancy graphics onto.
And they go from that back to the flip devices in TNG. Interesting.
Yep. One final question for you both. Do you want to see more standalone Star Trek streaming films? And what would you like to see a standalone Star Trek film about? I'll start with you, Sam.
The Romulan Wars season, make an Enterprise movie. Give those actors who have all said they'll come back a great little send-off.
Okay, yeah. Interesting. Jim, what about yourself?
I wouldn't object to like limited series or more TV series with subjects from this movie, depending on who or what it is, though. Like a Rachel Garrett series based on her time as the captain of the Enterprise C, limited series, or just a couple of seasons. All for that.
And I think that kind of leans into what Michael Fuller wanted to do with Brian Fuller wanted to do with Discovery originally, which is create like an anthology series which tells different stories across different parts of the Federation timeline. I'm kind of on board with that, Jim. I think, like smaller, like limited run series, like, 4 to 6 episodes, which tell a longer contained story. I think that works a little bit better than a movie. And let's But let's lean into the things that we know that we want to see more of. Again, like that Lost era, that Enterprise C era, I'd love to see more of that. I'd love to see, I don't know, give us like a limited series about what happened on board the USS Melbourne during the Best of Both Worlds or something along those lines. A young
Or like-
Cisco or who knows, right?
Or like on the ship that survived the Battle of Wolf 359.
Yeah, exactly. You've got a lot of rich lore to tap into here. Let's Paramount, use the franchise wisely, please, and stop rolling back your D&I. Anyway, any final thoughts?
That might
Jim?
be asking too much on some of those, Davey.
I know.
They're Canadian.
Any final thoughts, Jim
No, I think we've covered it all for me.
and Sam?
Yeah. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it.
Yeah, that's kind of it, isn't it? Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. And if you are catching the replay of this on YouTube, why don't you hit us up with a comment and a like and a subscribe here on BQN Podcasts and tell us what you thought. You can also email us bqnpodcasts@gmail.com or join us in our Discord chat, our Discord server. There is a link in the episode description below. You'll find all three of us there. And yeah, and don't forget to check out and support your favorite BQN shows by considering patron membership by heading over to patreon.com/BQN. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Live long and prosper to you both.